So last week, U.S. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi did a tour of Asia. And she stopped in a bunch of countries, but she might have made a mistake because one of the countries she visited wasn't actually a country.
I don't think that was a mistake, and I think it was actually a productive action that she did.
So her stop in Taiwan, well, what did she do in Taiwan?
Well, first and foremost is she came here. I mean, that's the most important thing. Even though she spent about 18 hours here, I think when Newt Gingrich came here in the late 90s, he only spent 3 hours here. So she one-upped him on that. She met with President Tsai and the legislature in Taiwan. I don't believe Newt Gingrich met the president at the time. I think it was supposedly a non-official visit, but her visit was also non-official, but she met everybody. She made statements about Taiwan's democracy, about human rights. She noted how Taiwan had done a great job during COVID. And I think all these statements that she made were actually very powerful because they actually were not only directed at the Taiwanese population, but to China, because we know that China has a zero COVID policy and it's disastrous. They have no democracy. They have no human rights. So she hit all the things that are really painful points from my point of view that China fears people understanding what they bring to the table. So in that respect, I think she did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't really talk about China. She just
No,
kind of talked about Taiwan and let the rest go unsaid.
exactly. But anyone reading that, could easily interpret that as being, go Taiwan, but also, oh, China is also in the picture, and oh, China has no human rights. China has a terrible COVID policy, and China is not a democracy. So I think the CCP understood the message.
I enjoyed her visit to the National Human Rights Museum specifically, since that's kind of a pointed jab at the CCP not acknowledging any of the human rights atrocities in their past, like let alone the current ones that they're currently doing. But versus Taiwan having gone from this authoritarian, like one party dictatorship essentially into a democracy now, and just kind of highlighting that.
Yeah, and I think she also met at that museum. I think she met with human rights activists. I think there was a person from Hong Kong. I think there was a person from mainland China.
There was
There's like a Tibetan, and then there was she got a 2-for-1 with a Uyghur who was also a
Yeah.
Tiananmen activist.
War Casey was there, so that
Yeah.
that was both, and
So
then
you really just hit all of the different ones.
a Hong Kong bookseller
Yeah.
who got kidnapped in mainland China. Yeah, just a Taiwanese person who had been, sentenced to prison in China. So yeah, just almost everybody.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, as you probably you're very familiar with the concept of the five poisons of China, and those people represented each of those five poisons: the independence movement of Taiwan, Tibet, the Uyghurs, Falun Gong. I'm not sure that they were there, but the idea is that all these groups of people are discriminated against in China, and these are the five poisons that they have to deal with in China because there is no freedom.
Yeah. I think she did miss Falun Gong, but I didn't read anything about that.
I didn't see anything about that either. I definitely know there was a Tibetan government exile representative there.
But
Yeah.
but 4 out of 5 is still, it's pretty solid for the poisons.
And it seems pretty, I mean, I don't, like, there have been a lot of other congressional delegations to Taiwan, but I don't think, like, they have done something as pointed as going to this Human Rights Museum and meeting with these activists who have been imprisoned in China.
Yes, exactly. And I think no matter what people say about Speaker Pelosi, I think over her career she has been consistently focused on those issues. Uh, each time she's gone someplace, and in Asia, has been focusing on human rights. So it's not like a new thing. Like she wanted to, make a new splash. It's consistent with her background.
Yeah, I mean, she went to Tiananmen Square in '91, I believe, and had like a democracy banner. So that's
Correct.
that's actually a pretty good, solid track record, especially for someone in politics.
Exactly. So, I think all the things that she did and all the things she said were well choreographed and well planned. Um, and then she left.
Well, one group that didn't like her trip to Taiwan seems to be the Biden administration.
Correct.
So, what happened there?
So, interesting scenario. So, President Biden used the Defense Department's comment that it wasn't a good time to go as his comment about her visit. And we all know that the Defense Department is under the executive. So it's the executives quoting the executive saying Pelosi shouldn't go. I think there's some tension between the two of them because, as you know, the President Biden's ratings are very low. Obviously, Speaker Pelosi is very interested in getting Democrats reelected in the fall. And so I think that part of that has to do with the fact that she wants to try to make the Democrats look like they're doing something in the world. So she can do that. And I think part of the problem in the PRC is that some people don't understand how a country can have leaders doing different things than the party wants them to do. So, as you know, in the United States, we have a division of powers. We have the legislature, we have the executive, and we have the Supreme Court. And each one of those can do what they want. So a lot of people, I think, especially in China, were trying to connect U.S. government policy with Speaker Pelosi, and she doesn't have to follow those rules. In addition to that, just before the Trump administration left office, there was a bill that was passed that encouraged high-level government representatives to go to Taiwan. So, in fact, she was actually following up on that in a sense.
So you're saying Nancy Pelosi was doing what Donald Trump wanted?
Well, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
the bill was passed by Congress first before Trump signed it. But yeah.
Well, but I'm sure Nancy Pelosi was involved in that legislation. She's the Speaker of the House, so she knows where all the bills are going, and she's the one who manages all that. So, I'm not so sure she would agree with you, but by default, yeah, she did follow up on that. But I think her whole trip in general was a good thing especially for Taiwan. And I think it also, I think just maybe moving into the idea of China's reaction, I think China's reaction has caused a lot of problems for them. It's helped unify Taiwan. It's helped people around the world understand what Taiwan is. Why is it important? It's drawing them into the limelight. It's also reinforced U.S. public opinion for Taiwan. And I think the biggest nightmare for China is for people to say, "Oh, Russia invades Ukraine because they want to. China wants to invade Taiwan because they want to. So I guess Taiwan and Ukraine are the same, and therefore we should support them." So I think that the more China uses arguments that don't make sense to the rest of the world, the more the people become supportive of Taiwan.
So let's talk about specifically some of the PRC's reactions to the visit. They had been threatening before the visit that there would be consequences
Don't
Uh,
cross, don't play with people who play with fire get burned. Like vague, kind of
right.
pretty
Pretty vague,
standard.
except for Hu Xijin
Oh,
from the Global Times, who
yeah, but I think that you can't really take what Hu Xijin says as like policy, right?
you can't, but he had some comment about like China should shoot down her plane, which was a little bit extreme, and obviously was never going to happen. But I think a lot of people freaked out about that.
I don't know if they actually freaked out or if it was just like a nice
It's a good
headline.
headline.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be the headline for this podcast.
That
That what that China could shoot down. I mean, obviously it's a little late for that,
retroactively
but
shoot down her plane.
yeah.
If you remember, in early April of this year, she was going to come to Taiwan, and the former Global Times editor, he said similar things when she was going to come to Taiwan. He talked about shooting her plane down or flying jets over Taiwan. It's kind of old news if you've been following what he's been saying. Um, and of course, she got COVID and couldn't make it, and then she went off to get a selfie with Zelensky. But so I think this time everything was in place for her visit. I think that she was safe in the air, and I don't think that the PLA would have or could have shot her plane down. And oh, by the way, her plane is a U.S. Air Force plane, and if they shoot down a U.S. Air Force plane, that's not an attack on Taiwan; that's an attack on the United States. So it's not, there are a lot of things he says that don't make sense, and if they did, that they would have severe consequences. So do you want to talk about should we talk about the different kinds of comments made before her trip? Were all threatening. And of course, luckily she came and the threats fell through. I think there's an expression, the Russians used to say that the Chinese would always say something like the last threat, China's last threat, final threat. And then each time they made a final threat, they never fell through with it. So this is a common thing that the Chinese do, is make threats, but not necessarily do anything about it.
So it's like Final Fantasy, the video game. Like they have the first one, and it's not the Final Fantasy, but then they keep going. There's a second and third, and there's like 16, 20 of them now. I mean, it's basically the
So
same
the final
concept.
threat,
The final threat.
the final warning. Yeah.